Welcome everyone to this week's episode 18 of UK Edu Stories, with my co-host.
I can't believe it's 18, Bookie.
I know.
So
my
good.
co-host and I, Mark Anderson, and we're actually going to be interviewing two people, Juliet and Mike, because this week's episode we're actually going to be exploring effective ways to incorporate outdoor learning into distance learning. So it's going to be a very interesting episode, as they all are. But before we actually start, how's your week been, Mark?
Oh, crikey. My week's been really good. Crazy busy with lots of different things, preparing for sessions. I did a session yesterday morning with Liverpool Hope University with PGCE lecturers. I'm doing some prep for some sessions next week with Cardiff and Vale College. We launched the Digital Strategy Guide on Monday, which has been really well received. Some lovely comments in that. Spinning plates as always, Bookie. But always room for more if you're interested in working with me, obviously. But I don't do sales pitches on the show. So, but yeah, keep them really, really busy. And as a self-confessed bit of a geek, I had a delivery yesterday, which has been keeping me very busy. But I'm very pleased with my new technology purchase. Yeah, really lovely. How about yourself? What have you been up to?
Great. Oh, busy. I have to admit, it's each week gets increasingly more busy. Same as you, presentations. In fact, I've got a presentation tomorrow. It's to do with, I think, Box Edu. I always forget the hashtags, but I'm going to be delivering a session looking at how we can actually manage our well-being. So it's going to be interesting, but lots of presentations and things like that. So yesterday was the launch of Teacher 5 a Day, #21 Days July. So it's the 5th year I've done it. And basically it's a fun way to engage with Teacher 5 a Day, the 5 aspects: connect, exercise, learn, notice and volunteer. And also to just begin the countdown to a well-deserved summer break. So however it shapes out, because we may still be doing some type of teaching during the summer holidays, who knows, but much deserved. So yeah, so that's been fun. Yes, but and I think I've reached a stage where I'm now hanging on by my fingertips as everyone else. It's been an interesting, challenging year, but I think we deserve a break. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Say a few weeks left here in England. Scotland, I think they're breaking up this week. I know
they broke up already.
Friends in the Middle East have broken up today. So Ollie Lewis, for example, who I present the other show with, who's been a guest on here a few times as well. He broke up for his summer holidays today, so lucky them. Swings and roundabouts. People just think Scotland have it great because they break up so early, but they do go back so much sooner.
True.
During August as well. So there's all that to consider too. It's funny, we often hear sort of teachers sort of say, "Oh, they've got it easy in the independent sector because of the holidays," or it doesn't matter which area of the world, what sort of sector you're in. Do you know what, Bookie? Teaching's hard, isn't it?
It is.
There are pressures left, right, and centre.
It really is, and I don't think it particularly matters which particular sector. So some people think, well, it's easy in the independent rather than state. As you say, Mark, teaching is a challenge no matter where you're doing, and there's always a pressure. Year on year, there has to be an improvement in results, which is understandable. But sometimes you don't always have the resources, to do that. So, but I think what this pandemic actually shows is that teachers, no matter where they are willing to bend over backwards to do what they can for their students, the young people that they teach, and the school community. So I think it's a great vocation.
Yeah, no,
very much so. Yeah.
I completely agree. People that I meet and work with regularly, all the time, they got into teaching to help young people and make a difference and change lives and have those sort of values and that sort of vision running through them like a stick of rock. So I'm really pleased to have some great guests on the show this evening to share with us. We've got Juliet Robertson, who's at Creative Star on Twitter. I've known Juliet for quite a few years now. She's another independent thinking associate, part of the ITL Worldwide sort of collective. She's got some pedigree, not that she's a dog, obviously. She's got some pedigree with the people that she works with there, and she's in demand for her work, and she's written many books around the topic we're discussing this evening about learning. And I'm really, really keen to sort of hear more about this. I'm not a primary practitioner. We often see, and this will be a question I want to bring to both Mike and to Juliet, because outdoor learning often seems to be the domain of primary. How can we actually bring, because it's all relevant, and I love tech like the next person, but it's just as important children get the opportunity to do PE, undertake arts activities, all those different things. And I think outdoor learning should be something which is embraced far more. I've seen it firsthand, the impact it can have on my own children. See, and so I'm keen to learn more about the practice and the ideas that both Mike and I'm going to big up Mike in a second as well, and Juliet can share, but also how we can apply those sort of things into a secondary setting and what examples they might have of those different things.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you want to? I've done the Juliet introduction. Would you like to introduce Mike, and then we can bring them both in?
Yeah, so I've actually seen Mike present, so I'm quite excited, and I know that he does a lot with regards to outdoor projects and actually weaving in the literacy aspects as well, which is really good. So I love that. So are we introducing Mike first?
Yeah, I'll bring Mike in now. Here we go.
Okay. Yep. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Okay, I hope his internet reception is still working.
So, viewers, Mike is had a few problems this week with his internet connection. He was really looking forward to being able to join us tonight, and thought yesterday he might not be able to. He's hotspotting on his phone this evening, and I think he might be having a bit of a lag there because he's not quite where he needed to be with the conversation at the moment. So let's hope he comes back in just a second. Okay. I'll leave him there, hoping he'll be able to come back and be with us in just a second. But I'm just going to bring Juliet in as well. While hopefully Mike's connection comes back. Hi, Juliet. How are you?
Hello. Good to see you both again.
Hi, Juliet. Lovely to see you again.
Thank you both so much for agreeing to come and share on the show this evening. How are things with you, Juliet?
Fantastic, thanks. I'm
hoping nobody's asking me. Don't know what they are.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a bit of a lag there.
I'm just
waiting. Apologies. Okay. A few technical difficulties with Mike a little bit there. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop Mike out for a second. It might be worthwhile just refreshing your browser or something to clear out your cache there. Mike, and we'll come back to you shortly.
Okay, sorry about that, Juliet. Okay.
Right, yeah. So I've had a lovely week, thank you. Very busy as usual, just doing behind the scenes work for various local authorities and running the odd webinar. So, yeah.
Not busy at all then.
You were waving some sticks around before. You were doing a webinar today. What was that all about?
Yes, I was doing maths, and you can't do maths outside unless you have sticks. So if you look at these, I'm just seeing if I can get them close. You see, I've got the quantities on either side.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
So I just have sticks of different lengths and sizes, and we use those to have a fantastic time outside. Fish. So yes, and because I've been doing it, I've got pine cones, I've got ropes. It all looks so wrong when we're talking sticks, stones, ropes, doesn't it? But it works brilliantly for engaging children and raising attainment outside, which is my job. Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. I love the idea of actually using tangible items, artifacts, and things like that to bring to get students to actually think about the learning in a different way. So, yeah, before we even actually ask another question, can you introduce yourself more formally, please, Julia, and actually just tell us who you are and what your role is, please?
Yes, so I'm Juliet. I am an education consultant that specialises in learning and play outside. And every year of my time is different. I've been doing that since 2007, before which I was a head teacher for a good 8.5 years plus. The first school had 6 children in it, aged 3 to 12 in the middle of Highland, and the last school had a more normal 277 children. So quite exciting. But I stopped that in 2007, and by accident, without too much thought, I became an education consultant because I had a cheque to cash because I was doing substitute teaching. So I cashed the cheque and went self-employed. And then I just ended up taking on more and more outdoor work, which my background had always had a lot of anyway. So I've been a countryside ranger, I did an environmental science degree, that sort of thing. And suddenly this work came back into my life at the time. And yeah, things took off. I thought I'd be doing the odd inset training 2 or 3 times a year and doing supply teaching. It never occurred to me that I could actually do this in an employed capacity.
Well, that's great. I'm great to hear how you almost accidentally you actually came into this particular role. So it's great. Okay, so can I just ask you then in that case, what is outdoor learning? How would you actually define outdoor learning for people like educators or parents who may be watching this and not actually sure about what it actually means?
Yes. Well, I loved our conversation, Bucky, before when I said, tell me what you think it is. This is the really interesting things. People make it very, very complicated. And for me, it's just any learning that happens outside.
Okay, but does it mean outside in outdoors, or in my context of outside being away from school? So it could be, as an urbanite, I call myself an urbanite, born and bred, lived in London pretty much all my life. And so being outside of school, it could be like the Science Museum or Natural History Museum, that will still be classified in my eyes as outdoor learning. Is that correct? Yeah. Am I right in my assumption?
I think that's a really nice thing to acknowledge, that these institutions bring value, and you'd probably have to get public transport or walk there. So there's a whole heap of skills that are going on all of a sudden, and additional learning to get you there. And there's all the planning, and then there's the work, and then there's the bringing it back into whatever else you're doing. So it sounds to me like it's a great thing.
Okay, that's really good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not a snob. A lot of people create very complex descriptions of what learning outside is, and my argument is I don't care what I'm interested in is the quality of that experience wherever it happens.
Okay.
And I would say that goes down the digital rabbit hole as well. When you go into a digital world, you want that to be a quality learning experience too, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of things digital and all of that, Juliet, are there any, as a parent, if I'm looking for some great resources to give me some ideas for things, I've written things myself actually for kids in school, like the 50 Things thing. So there's the 50 Things books and guides and things. Have you got any other sort of things that you could share? Great resources for parents who might be thinking, well, crikey, here we go. We can't go on holiday to Spain or wherever we might want to go on holiday, or even where I live down in Somerset on the coast. We can't really go anywhere. Are there any sort of places that you might sort of guide parents to go to try and find some great activities they can do, but within their local areas?
Yeah, well, I think you highlighted the National Trust 50 Things to Do Outside Before You're 11 3/4. That's just brilliant. But do you know what's even more fun? Is to actually compile your own list as a family. So that it's yours and you have ownership over it. And that makes it a lot more fun. Because then you have to pick, do you want quick wins? Do you want hard wins? What's doable within the current times? So that's brilliant. And I always say with parents, go with your children's interests, go with their passions. So if your child just needs to spend a morning at the park playing football and doing keepy uppies, fantastic. That will teach them so much that puts them in good stead. And I am biased. That's what my son spent most of his childhood doing, and it turns out all right. So yeah. And I was just thinking about this too, because people are often shocked, but I actually like the odd bit of gaming myself, and I would strongly recommend Pokemon as a family activity.
Yep, Mark would agree with that.
I didn't realise, Juliet, I'm a level 40 player myself.
Yeah, of course, yes. But what team are you on?
I will have this discussion off air because I don't want to start a whole Pokemon battle live on air, Juliet. But
this is all a different language to me, so yeah.
It's brilliant when I think, because I'm talking maths because I've just done a maths webinar. But if you want kids to really use big numbers, give them Pokemon Go, get them out, pick the routes, and when you're in a strange town, so Bucky, you're saying you're an urbanite, it is brilliant. You bring up a game like Ingress, Pokemon, Wizards Unite, and all the little flags go up, where you go and collect stuff, your Pokestops and things, and that the chances are, unless there's a one lone one out there, that you can more or less follow, and you're going to be in a busy place. And you can also use them to find bits of information about what it is in the world around you. So I went around Australia in 2016 when it had just come out. And literally when I got in, I'd flip on Pokemon, didn't need to find a tourist information. Pokemon did it for me. Fantastic.
That's really good. Okay. Yeah. I love it.
I can completely relate to that. My own children, and children want to play games, don't they? And the reason why we spend so much time looking at and thinking about Pokemon Go actually is because whilst they want to play games, and they do still play Minecraft and things, and which are really useful in and of themselves. But the reason why I love them playing Pokemon so much is because it actually gets you outside. Yeah. You are in front of a screen, but you're outside, you're walking. You all know yourself about community days. We can do sort of 10, 15 kilometers on a community day, a 3-hour window, Bookie, going out trying to chase down these Pokemon, and they're mad for it. Yeah. And, like you said, the mathematics in there is huge as well, trying to find the ones that have got like 100% perfection levels and all this sort of thing as well. It is absolutely huge. I did not know we had a shared love of Pokemon, Julia.
Well, that's it. I'm currently on Wizards Unite, which isn't as good as Pokemon, I will be honest.
Yeah.
But it's just a nice sort of, it's less addictive, so therefore it's probably better for me.
Oh, that's interesting. Sorry, I know this is like a slight tangent, but I'd like to ask, what makes it less addictive than Pokemon?
Because you can collect all the daily awards very quickly, and there's something magical about Pokemon. There is something so beautiful. It's such a simple game that you find yourself just compelled to, when that once you work it out, and it's to do with the community, and people are really generally very nice. So when you meet up, you get the tips, and they tell you how to get those 20,000 points and things like that. So it's just there's something very interesting about it, and it's to do too with the fact that my first classes were in the early 90s when Pokemon took off as a game card sort of thing.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. TV experience. So I feel we've got this generation that's grown up and found themselves again. And now I really get what it's all about, and I want to kind of say to those children who were 5, 6 and 7 at the time, it is so cool. But now they're 13, so it's not so good.
But it's lovely that you've as I say, you've got a community aspect as well, and a generational aspect as well, which is really interesting. Okay.
I'll give you another analogy with it as well. Say, there are two sort of things you can go and visit within the game, Bookie, which are called Pokestops or gyms. Now, I lived where I live now for best part of 15 years, and I moved away for a year or so, and then I came back. And I've learned more in the 18 months about my local area since I came back because of Pokemon Go. I've learned about local artifacts, local buildings, history, dates. I've made more friends through engaging in the community aspect of the game, all the rest of it, than I had in 15 years of living where I live now already. It's just been amazing. And so that's a great shout for actually going out and doing some bits and bobs around that, Juliet. I'm mindful that Mike's back now. Should we try and bring Mike back in?
Yes, please. Yes.
See how his connection's going. How are you doing, Mike?
Fingers crossed.
Hi, Mike. Yeah.
I'm all right.
Well done for returning. Good.
It's feeling secure at the moment. We think we're here.
Okay, well done for getting back. I just say
that was really
what
I mirror a lot of it. A lot of what she was saying there about sort of early on about the fact that it's the outdoor learning thing. It's not the what you do, it's the how well you do it, or what you get out of it that matters. It's not doing something special or spectacular. It is just about being not in the classroom and away from the screens, which you were saying as well. I think that's another really important element of it. We do a lot of that now. Children do a lot of that now.
Well, can I ask you to expand upon that point about what type of things should, you know, say, for example, when you've got, say, like parents who are doing this, what type of things should they be looking out for that makes the outdoor learning, whatever, however they decide to do it, a worthwhile event, for want of a better expression?
I think the fact that you're just going out and having an experience is what makes it worthwhile. Even if it's something as simple as you're going on a walk. So going on a walk wherever you go, whether you're going for a walk down by a river, by a canal, whether you're going for a walk through fields, through woods, or just through the park, or just down your road, it doesn't really matter. You take that as an opportunity to talk and to communicate and share, and as long as there's an element of talking going on, you'll find yourself covering all manner of different subjects, but just without naming them. You're not going to say, we're going to go on a walk and we're going to do maths. If you've got a younger child, you go on a walk and you see what numbers you see on people's bins.
Okay.
You know, and that's if you're doing number recognition with early children, you know, what number's that on the bin? You know, what number's next door to our house? What numbers are on those signs? What it can be as simple as that, and just getting a chance to see things out of what children sometimes see as their normal context.
Okay.
I think you run that risk. Numbers are in a squared book on a table, because that's where you do numbers. That's where you learn about numbers. But numbers aren't in a book on your table between 9 and 10 every weekday. That's not where numbers live. So making sure that you're drawing attention to them, and then yes, you can take it deeper. You can start talking about you can do mathematics with those numbers if you're doing that, but you can just go out and take a walk and look at identifying plants, or even if just collecting different shaped leaves, and then later on trying to find out what did we find on our walk, and then take yourself into an online activity there and look at science and classification, but you're not saying we're doing and naming a subject. And if any child has a fear of a subject, and some children just inevitably do, you remove it by not naming it, and that doesn't matter.
I think that also will help to alleviate some of the fear that parents, carers and guardians actually have in the fact that they may want to undertake outdoor learning, and they've got some ideas, but they may not feel that they have enough of the the subject knowledge, or maybe ask the right questions. But where you said about just asking, you know, like simple questions, like, you know, like what door number or what have you, just observational things in the first instance that can be built upon, means that anyone can really access it. And make it more as an exploration as a family that, you know, you can all learn together.
I think that's
Mike went a bit metal Mickey then for a second. Didn't quite catch what you said there, Mike. I think he might have dropped off again there again.
Oh, that's such a shame. Okay.
Alien talk, isn't it?
I'll drop Mike back out again to give him a chance to sort the lag out with that a second. Juliet, you had a presentation that you were going to share with us this evening. Would you be happy to bring that up and just run us through what you wanted to share in there?
Yeah, sure. I'd just also like to share simple things too, like see if you're a parent, and this doesn't matter whether you're a teacher parent or a parent, but like just remember games from your own childhood that you loved, because they all have a learning value. So one of the things I do a lot of is we go outside and we go on a penny walk. You flip a coin, and heads you go left and tails you go right, and you see where you end up. And then, of course, if you've got a phone, you can Google your way back, can't you?
Unless you're me, I can't use Google very well. So.
You can flip your coin, see how, you know, what's the probability of you getting back, or will you end up needing to get the bus somewhere? It's just a brilliant thing to do. So stuff like that, or you might have played a game where you chuck pennies against the wall, and the one that gets closest gets to keep them all. That sort of thing. You know, that's that's money and counting. So everybody's got games within them that they loved and enjoyed of different sorts. And sharing those with your children, chances are you'll know an awful lot that you did outside too. So it's brilliant. Yeah,
and that's a really lovely way to bring some culture and diversity into it as well. Because I just say, if you just go with the, you know, like the games that you had as a child, no matter where you're from in the world, you know, that's something you're just passing on, and that will actually stimulate more conversations as well. So I think that's a really simple but effective way to you know, to do that.
Oh, I just love it, and so so brilliant. And what is interesting is when you do that, you learn that there is a universality to all of this. By that I mean that there are often games that unite cultures together. So practically every culture I've come across has a form of drafts, or noughts and crosses, or hopscotch, but they'll just have different layouts and different rules and things like that. So there's something quite magical about that some of these games just seem to be innate that we come up with. Yeah, you know, so I love it.
It's lovely. It's lovely to also hear about the importance and the value of games as part of learning, because I know that, you know, there's a debate, but I think from a family context, it's great because it's a unifier. The potential is, you know, to bring everyone together, and there's joint and shared learning. So that's lovely.
Absolutely. And the other thing too is if you're outside and you're just using, in Scotland, we'd call them chuckies, those little bits of gravel. You know, you might find some chuckies, or you've got your pine cones or whatever. You're just using what's around you. And that means it's not dependent on having money and finance. It's a complete leveler. So that's where, again, if you're looking for collaborative projects across the world, having games projects outside means that suddenly you can ooh and ah over, you know, you've got better pine cones than us, sort of thing. But it's not we're richer than you, we're poorer than you. We're on an equal playing field. That's not about money. That's not about status. That's your ability to find something interesting to play with.
Really valid point. Really good point. Okay.
Just before you bring your presentation out, we had a few comments come in. So Isla Flood, who's an ESOL lecturer at Solihull College, she's a previous guest, has said that she, I nearly missed this, but I love the sound of a penny walk. So that's from Isla. We've got Aim Flores saying how she actually uses Pokemon Go with her ESOL students as well. So that's being shared there as well. So thank you for joining in and sharing those sort of things with us. Please do, if you're watching, if you've got any questions for Juliet or for myself, Bucky, or for Mike, please do send those through as well. I'm very happy to answer those and respond to those things. So thank you for sharing those things, both of you.
Yeah, and hello to both of you too. Thank you. It's lovely when people do join in. Okay, shall I try sharing the screen? Do.
Yes, please.
If it goes.
Share. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Does it take a while?
Not really.
Oh.
There we go.
Oh, has it come up? Brilliant.
Yeah, it's up now. So if you want to just pop your slides up.
Yes. Can you see it now?
Yes. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so I popped that on so that it looked proper, you know. Okay, so I talked already about what outdoor learning is, and just please don't make it complicated for yourselves, just anything that happens outside, but think about the quality. Now, this is about the best time to think about learning outside, because if you want to think about quality in education, very often we focus on the people element. What's the quality of our relationships like with our children? What's our ability to ask good questions? That sort of thing. And then we sort of think about what's a great experience, you know, an outstanding Ofsted lesson, etc., etc. And very often we forget about place. And forgetting about the place where the learning happens is like taking a three-legged stool, sawing one leg off and trying to balance. You're going to be out of kilter. And right now, I am sure that most teachers would agree with me, because suddenly they've had to think about place. in a way that they never did, because they just assumed it was the classroom. But now they've got to start thinking about, there's a place where those children are trying to learn at home. And we now need to think about this place and where children are and how they're feeling, thinking and behaving in a way that we've never had to before. So that's fantastic. And all that effort that teachers have put into that place-based thinking will stand them in really good stead if they're now being asked to work outside more. Because all you're doing outside is you're treating it like a second classroom. You know, it's an extra space that gives you freedom, that is full of interesting things, even in a concrete jungle. It's just got so much to go for it. And even if it hasn't, you can always import stuff like sticks and cones and stuff. So it just works really well. So that's what I always say, and just focus on what you know is a great quality lesson. So we know about the importance of, you know, sensible, co-constructive learning intentions. We know that we need to think about our questions and how they encourage higher order thinking. We know we need to make connections back to the learning before and the learning after, all those things. And that doesn't change going outside. Nothing changes over the quality other than we make it the best we possibly can. So, and I think teachers are very well placed to do that. I really do think so. So I'll just flip on, and I love this picture. Look at that beautiful Scottish sea. And if you're not used to being outside, a good thing to think about in terms of what you can do is that outdoor learning is an umbrella term for loads of different things. But for me, it's a bit like being at a beach. Okay, do you want to be a channel swimmer, or do you want to just paddle in the shallow end? And by that I mean, if you think there's some amazing teachers in secondary school who will take their children on expeditions to Bolivia or up a hill, Duke of Edinburgh stuff. For me, these are what I call channel swimmer experiences, extended immersions outside. Whereas a lot of what I do is that doorstep outdoor stuff where you step outside your classroom, you've got yourself and 30 kids and you just use the school grounds, and you might not even use it for more than 10 minutes because we're interested in the quality. It might just be a snapshot of the lesson before we go back inside, or I might meet the class out there, do a 10 minutes of a warm-up for maths and then move on inside after that. So again, it's so fluid and open-ended. And if you think how small our classrooms are and all the effort we've gone into as a profession to make that an engaging, interesting place, we haven't even begun to turn the tap on the potential of the outdoors, have we?
No.
True.
It's amazing. Okay. And I just say, you know, the skill set you have there, great planning, awareness of your kids, what's going on around you, you've got it. Off you go. It's just all the worries people have really are ones that they have the skill set. I mean, children, you deal with difficult children inside the class, it doesn't change outside. You know, often, in fact, we can be pleasantly surprised, and often children's behaviour will improve, that sort of thing. You know, or we worry about health and safety. But I mean, I encourage early years practitioners to do an audit, which you have to do anyway, but as good practice, of what's happening with your first aid, where's the hot spots, is at a particular time, place, area, etc. And more often than not, there's more accidents happening inside than there is out, but people get much more het up about the dangers of being outside. And really, you know, we're doing okay. All right. And one thing you asked me about before was what. This is a classic example. What do you think of it?
We lost you for a second then, Juliet. You were saying about a conversation before, but then we lost what you said afterwards. Could you just start that a little bit again? Is that okay?
I'm trying to think. What was the last thing you heard me say?
One thing we said about, and that was it. It just went a bit funny.
Oh, I don't know.
Don't worry.
One thing I said about earlier was dum dum dum.
Wow. Well, we'll leave it. Do you know what I mean?
It's all good.
Anyway, this is a nice example of a channel swimmer type of outdoor activity, in that this is a deeper, longer, immersive experience. So this is a year 4 class from several years ago in the Czech Republic, and nobody spoke a word of English at that time, and I met them in downtown Prague at 8 o'clock in the morning with all the rush hour happening, and we jumped on a bus to go to this farmer's village. We dashed along the single road to his farm, and then the children had to clear this patch of ground of stones. Then they had to give the ground a blessing, put some biodynamic fertilizer down, so it was okay, nothing dodgy or chemical. And then here they are preparing the soil before they sow it. And it was an incredibly powerful day, and they go out every month through the year. And the following year, when they grow the grain, they harvest it, and then they make bread for everybody else in the school.
Wow.
So that's
really powerful.
It is powerful. And I would say, for goodness sake, just like being a channel swimmer, if you haven't been outside, you don't have to be doing this. But I think very often people believe that's the level you're expected to be at. A bit like, oh no, I can't go out and do football because I'm not Cristiano Ronaldo. Do you know what I mean? It's exactly the same scenario. So I just thought that's a lovely one to share. And I also wanted to share this, which is residentials, because secondary and primary, if you want something that will give children a lifelong impact, give them that entitlement to a residential, make it happen. There's a great website called the Learning Away Project about really brilliant residentials. And these are all photos from my own time of working in a residential centre in Canada. And a really well-planned residential is magical. So you've got here in the in the top corner, that was a hut that class built in the week that they were there. Yeah. So, and it's pretty rare you're going to do that back at school. And then, of course, the whole emphasis of a residential should be that you're doing things that you can't do at school. So this is a particular problem-solving track that's a traversing wall, but it's complex, and you had to remember codes and things like that to get across in the right way. And we kept bees, so we had a farm on site. So every group of year 7 children, year 6 children that came, they had to do whatever farming jobs were needed. So they had to collect the eggs, they had to look after the bees, they had to do the maple syrup. That wasn't a choice, that kept the whole centre going. And even we even ate the produce. So Wednesday night was always burger night, and that's when we ate the burgers that had come from last year's cows and that sort of thing. So very meaningful experiences for children. And these were from an urban area in Toronto. So for some of them, it was a very big deal coming to such a rural area, as you can imagine. And I don't think, and here's the shallow end stuff. So you can see here, just nice gathering circle outside. That's just like a carpet inside, except you can see they've got posh seats to sit on. So if it's a wet day, your bum never needs to get wet. You don't have to rough it outside. And you can see they're all using these meter sticks. We use them for tapping and passing and multiplication, dancing and things like that. Very useful stuff. And on the right-hand side, you can see children on a bench measuring. And that was their challenge, because after exploring these sticks and wondering what to do with them, that was one of the challenges they came up with. What's the tallest tower we can make with this set amount of sticks? And because all the sticks are different sizes, from 1 meter to 50 centimeters to 25 centimeters, they really had to problem solve to work out. And the groups all feed off each other. One gets a good idea, the other looks over and says, see what they're doing. We could do that too. So again, you build this collaborative learning environment. I just thought I'd provocatively finish with that one. I love. I just love this head in the sand. Where's the evidence that teaching inside is any better than teaching outside? That's my question to you.
Good and provocative question.
It is a provocative question, yeah.
Yes. So that's it. I can stop sharing.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Thank you so much. That was really good. And what I love about what much of what you shared there, Juliet, is a sense of community that's actually established that, so it's just so powerful, because I think that like even if it's something that's done on site in a school, that sense of community or belonging or togetherness can still be replicated in a different format, but still continue at home. So I think that's a powerful connector between the two worlds.
Yes. Am I still on screen share? I can't work out.
No, you're not screen sharing at all. You're just to us now.
Oh, that's great. So I just need to find out where you are. Oh, I've got you.
That's brilliant.
Yes, I can see you all. And Mike, hello.
And Mike is back. Welcome back, Mike.
As well. Welcome back, Mike. Hopefully things are a bit more on a level footing for you now.
Yeah, definitely deserves a medal for resilience there.
Yeah, absolutely. Stickability.
Yeah.
That's a really
hear us?
Sorry, go on.
Sorry. Yeah. I was going to say, I've done a check with Mike. You can hear us. Okay.
Not looking like it.
Okay, well, so I'll come back to Mike. Sorry to interrupt you, Mark.
It's absolutely fine.
Oh.
But we'll have to present next week's hackathon.
No.
I know, I'm disappointed because I've known Mike for years through Twitter, and I've always wanted to have a chance to have a chat. Mm-hmm. You get these little snippets, and I'm going, I want more. Give me more of your nuggets, sort of thing.
Yeah. Having seen Mike. Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Okay, having seen Mike present, it's well go. Oh, yeah, great. Okay.
Yeah, turn your video off and give you more bandwidth. So that's hopefully a way forwards for the conversation, Mike. Or not, perhaps. I thought the examples you gave there in your presentation, Juliet, were really powerful. I know one of the things that, for example, has been quite difficult for my own children, my youngest in particular, this academic year, has been that rite of passage. He goes to a first school, he's in year 4, and they do a residential every year 4. And his brother got to do it, and he's been looking forward to it for a very, very long time. And it encapsulates, the teachers do a lot of planning, and it encapsulates all the sort of things you were talking about with collaborative activities, problem solving, and working together to solve problems, and all these different things. So he's been massively disappointed to not have access to that this year. One of the things that puts people off as well, I found in my career, from engaging in different types of activities which take you beyond and outside the classroom, have been, and you mentioned the risks and things, and the risk assessment. We do as a profession need to fill out the risk assessments before, and that in and of itself can be a barrier to people wanting to sort of take children out there. If we've got some NQTs watching, let's say, or Isla has actually asked in the live comments as well. Actually, I'll bring this up for a second so you can see it. She's trying to get ideas for getting her ESOL learners outdoors, and wanting sort of some ideas around all of that sort of stuff. Have you got any ideas or thoughts around how to make risk assessments easy, because obviously they're important documents that need to be considered, and all those sort of things. But do you think perhaps the teachers find them a bit, they are a barrier because they don't know how to fill them in? Have you got some advice around risk assessments for teachers? And then secondly, have you got a few ideas perhaps for Isla around sort of language learning and supporting ESOL learners in their learning outdoors?
Do you know something? I think that's a real sector specific one, because in the early years sector, everyone gets used to just tossing off a risk assessment, and we call them risk benefit assessments, because that's just, you have to do it for the food hygiene, you have to do it for administering medicines, you have to do it for taking children to the toilet, you don't quite have to do it for nasal hygiene, but it's near enough that. So nobody ever brings that up as an issue in the early years.
Mm.
They may sometimes they were worried about risk, but never doing the risk assessment. It seems to be a real secondary hang-up. Strangely, more than any other sector, and that comes out in research too. There's not been much, but that's a barrier at secondary school, but just has disappeared. You know, meanwhile, you suggest to a reception teacher, and what about a residential? And you can see them almost pale at the thought. You know, so again, there are sector concerns that vary, and so I just say, once you have one for your outdoor space and that year group, you've got it. You know, you'll be tweaking it. It's just another part of your planning. It can help you plan.
Yeah.
So once you've done one, it's no big deal. Particularly just for doorstep activities, compared to an international expedition, you know, that you know some secondary teachers do. You know, this is a drop in the ocean. It's it is literally a breeze, and it's only common sense. And we need to think about health and safety. And this is a quote from the Canadian forestry industry: "Health and safety isn't about paperwork. It's about looking after each other, looking after yourself, and effective communication." That's it. They reduced death rates in their industry by 1/3 on that mantra over a 3-year period.
Yeah. That's interesting. I was going to ask, partly, could part of the, I suppose, consternation around this risk assessments be linked to the fact that maybe people aren't very, like educators, not very confident about the trips, and so it's the risk assessment is part of the whole thing that they feel uneasy about, because I remember I think I may have been an NQT, but I qualified as a teacher years ago, and I was on high alert from the moment we left the school until the moment we turned every single child back, because I just kept thinking, we had the risk assessments done, but just in case something happened, that was the only thing running through my mind. So, that's hence the question I asked about maybe that, possibility of, anxiety, maybe fear linked to the trips and things, or outdoor learning maybe linked in that way.
Yeah. Can you remember your first lesson that you taught as a student?
That I taught as a student?
Yes, not outside, but just generally. Can you remember that feeling of those first few lessons?
Yes.
And that sheer panic.
Mm-hmm.
So all it is it's a new experience. And this is one of the reasons why when I train, I feel quite ruthless saying this, but I say you've got to get out a minimum once a week. If you're doing a course with me that lasts a year, you have to commit to that, because you've got to get over those hang-ups. My heart just goes out to you, Bucky. Do you know why? Because I just think and thought, God, you did all that work and all that preparation to go out just once. I'm far too lazy for that. Do you know what I mean? If I'm doing all that work and paperwork, I need to be off-site once a week to make the most of it. Boy, So just to make yourself feel comfortable. And there is an acclimatization process to this.
Yeah.
It's a new classroom. Think about it. If you go back and you're put into a new classroom, you're going to spend time, aren't you, sort of working out where you're going to put your pencil pots and where your textbooks are. And you just have to do the same outside. I never go outside cold. I always go walk around. I have a right good sniff. Oh, yeah, that'll be the wall I'll put my bags against. And there's a bit of a rabbit hole there, and that sort of thing. And oh, I like that. So I'm always just doing just what I do in a classroom, but with an outdoor space. And that can really help. But if you only go out every now and then, it's this tremendous effort for a lot of stress and worry. And I can't be done with stress and worry anymore. That's why I stopped being a head teacher.
I was going to ask. I didn't think it was polite, but okay.
Yeah, work-related stress. So yeah, I'm quite different. So shall I move on to the ESOL question?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay. So is that about English as a second language or an additional language? Okay,
Yeah.
brilliant, brilliant. So the great news is that in the last 3 years, we've started to have some really interesting research emerge about the fact that when you take children outside, and in particular into natural spaces like woodlands, that their vocabulary increases, and the diversity and the richness and their turns of phrases and things like that. And it seems to be that when you are outside and you see things, you make better sense of them. So you can, if you're by a body of water, like you pass a river, you can learn the word for river, and that's different from the sea. And you've got the smells, the sights, the sounds, the feeling. So your brain is making sensory links. Have I gone funny again?
No, you're fine. Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, so that's really good. So for ideas, Isla, can I just say, if you're on Twitter, you can just follow me, message me, yeah, and I'm happy to send you stuff, but little things that are really good. I'm now going to do the demonstration. Okay, so there you are, and you're going to go off out into your playground or wherever, and what you can do is you can get your children to walk beside each other. I would say link arms, but in this COVID situation, you're going to be 2 meters apart, and you take 10 steps together and you count aloud. So of course you can count aloud in whatever language you want. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then you stop and you point at something, and you can point with your nose, your elbow, your knee, whatever it is, and you have to say what you see. Okay, so it might be, I've just seen my holly tree. Now, for somebody who's brand new, who has no language, they can just copy their partner. They can just echo their partner. But eventually they can start doing it together and having a competition. And the rule is you can't repeat what somebody else has already said. So once you've done holly tree or lamppost, you can't repeat that when you go next 10 steps, stop and point. Okay. Now, that sounds all very nice and jolly, doesn't it? But where's the learning?
Yeah.
So we get them in a group and we talk about what objects did you see, how hard did you find this, it was an interesting little problem, and then we say, right, okay, so you were talking common nouns when you point to objects. Okay, I think that's too boring, let's bring in some description. So then you might play a game, and I like to play games that, as I've said before, are based on previous experience, but adapted for the outside. So we might play a game like Spin the Stick. You know, spin the stick in a different context, don't you? And wherever the stick lands pointing at, it's that person's go. And so one person might say tree, and they might have to say big green tree. Or you could do it on metaphor. A metaphor is really strong too. So the more advanced your children, the more you can increase the vocabulary. So you can start with metaphor, and you can have a stick like this, and you can go, it's not a stick. And you can all clap and move about, because you always have to outside to keep warm, especially in Scotland. So you're moving around, it's not a stick. It's bad. Whoever's got it has got to make it into something else, a back scratcher, and everyone else mimics back scratcher. Then you all go, it's not a stick, and I've got to run and get this stick to somebody else in the circle, and then they've got to make it into a toothbrush or something else. So again, it's another way of repeating and reinforcing vocabulary. You can ask children to go and find something interesting outside. Now, this works really well even in urban environments. You just have one little rule, and that's it. Is there anything that you shouldn't bring back, even if it is very interesting? And that's when you have that discussion about glass, animals, dead or alive, dog poo. We don't want any of that. And that's your talk around sustainability. If you want to bring learning for sustainability into your teaching, that is what you're doing. You're learning that some things aren't okay in your environment, that sort of stuff. So really good and really easy. And then when it comes back, you can literally use this to make up a 3-sentence story or something like that. Or if it's really simple, you can have Stickman. One day, Stickman went on a walk, and what did he find? He found a cone. Do. Next day, one day, Stickman went on a walk, he got a cone, and then he passed it to the next one. What else did he get? some rope. Oh, so one day Stickman went and got a cone, then he got a rope, and you all chant and you're repeating the language, repeating the language, repeating the language. So again, it's particularly strong, the literacy and the vocabulary and the development like that. And I would also say that it's the best place to introduce children to writing. Okay, so do you want to see my skinted, not minted equivalent? So this is my clipboard. It's A5. I better just prove that to you. Here's an A5 clipboard, you see. But as you can see, it's no expenses, Amazon box board, yeah? And what I do, because we've all got stuff and we've got to make children finish off stuff. So in my drawer here, I have loads of A4 scrap pieces of paper. Can you see that? Scrap on one side, clean on the other. And we just put them into little staple booklets of 10. And that's what I use outside. Now, straight away, half your class are going, thank goodness for that. She can't be making us write that much. Yeah, so you've got half the class on side because they know you're not going to be writing that much. And then you've got your other half going, those are cute. I've never seen a clipboard like that. That's really dinky. So you've got two splits going through kids' heads, and they're much more engaged with that. Nobody wants an A4 clipboard, do they? Because everyone knows that's going to be boring work. Yeah. And then this, of course, isn't any old clipboard, because, of course, once you've finished with that, you just tear it off. That can go back into your jotter, your workbook or whatever, and it's ready for the next lesson. Yeah, lazy teacher. And furthermore, this isn't any old clipboard. This is like a Marks and Spencer's clipboard, because when you open it up, it is in fact a flower press. There we go.
That's really cute.
So somebody like you, Bucky, it sounds daft, but you will do so much on biology. And if you're looking at structure and function of plants, so I've got one of these where I've got all the biological terms for plant structures and functions, because I can never remember my sepals from my from my pistules, whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? I just get so mixed up, and it's really embarrassing because my partner's a botanist. Well, he's the curator of a botanic garden, so it's scary. So anyway, moving swiftly on in case he hears. They will be so wrong. That's your simple guide to doing a clipboard outside. There we go.
Oh, wonderful. Well, you've given me some ideas of the farm trip I'm going to be, once we've gone past COVID, I'm going to be organising. Really great. Sorry, Mark, again, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Some lovely comments. I'm just mindful of the time because we're actually approaching the end of the show.
Wow.
But you got some lovely comments. Isla's comment saying, wow, Isla's made a few comments. I'd run through it. As the first one, she's asking about the research that you shared before, but I can connect you both afterwards. Isla and Juliet's Twitter handle is Creative Star, and Isla's Twitter handle, Juliet, is literally Isla Flood. So it's easy for you to connect some things there. Isla's actually an FE lecturer, so she's saying here she's got teenagers and adults, but these ideas can definitely be adopted for different level learners. I'm imagining some pre-entry outdoor classes, often pre-literate students. She's also Googling how to bulk buy loads of umbrellas. She's saying how she loves your passion and saying thank you for your ideas. Amy Flores is jumping in and saying the same sorts of things, saying amazing. She did loads of takeaways for her ESOL students as well. So really resonating really well with the audience tonight, Juliet. So thank you so much for those ideas. I've got one question just to ask you before we start to wrap things up, if that's all right. Other than Mike, who hasn't been able to come back and join us, unfortunately, hopefully we can get back on another show sometime. But other than Mike, what has been your most powerful resource that's helped you to effectively deliver some online lessons that incorporate online outdoor learning? What has been the most sort of powerful resource to help you do that?
There is. To be honest, because I am outdoorsy and therefore I need portable stuff, I'll be honest, it's something like a tablet. Anything that has a camera or a video app, there's something about exploring the world through a lens. And I'm actually going to do a shameless plug here for Jane's book, Learning Through.
I was going to say Jane, yeah.
That's it. And her blog is utterly brilliant too. I'm quite happy to keep that up till people see it. It's by Jane Hewitt. and it is just a delight. And that to me, and the reason I say that too, if you've got a tablet, then you get often all these free pre-installed apps. And what I always say to teachers is, don't even consider downloading any for the outdoors until you know what you can do with what you've already been given.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you could spend money on the ones that begin with CR and the apps, couldn't you? Do you know what I mean? And you don't waste good money or time. So I think that's just really valuable. And what I do as well is I always say put things that are relevant to the outdoors in one folder or one place if you've got a lot of other distractions on a tablet, so that the ones that children can use are all in the one place and they can explore those. Like everyone should have a bird calling app. I'm telling you, children just got so obsessed with that, and if they can mimic a crow. And the best thing is some of them are so good, you can have a girl going wah, wah, and then you can press it on your app and you can start having a conversation with that girl because of your app. Isn't that magic? Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, brilliant.
Right,
really good.
There's some fantastic takeaways here, Juliet. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's come and shared and joined in with us this evening. Apologies about Mike and his internet connection. Hopefully we can get him back on again in the future. Juliet, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show this evening. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
You ready? Sorry.
I've just loved it. It's been great to chat to both of you, because I watched some of your other ones before coming on, so I got a feel of it, and you're a great duo.
Oh, thank you.
I
really appreciate that. Thank you, Julia. And you're a great guest. Equally, you're a great guest to have. Really, very insightful, inspiring. I love your passion for what you do. So thank you.
Yeah, I just echo that as well. So I've known Juliet through the ITL stuff for a long time. We haven't met too many times face to face, but you've always left me with an idea to take away, and it's so lovely and helpful. It's been really fantastic to get you on the show this evening. You ready to? Do you want to do the wrap up, Bucky?
I am. Yes. So thank you so much, everyone that's actually joined us. Next week's episode is quite interesting because we're going to be looking at how early years practitioners have undertaken distance learning. So looking at some ideas, strategies, and tips that we can actually take away and use. So yeah, another interesting episode lineup, and I hope you can join us then. And if you've not already subscribed to UK Edu Stories, please do. Thanks to everyone that's already subscribed and following us now. But have a great week and weekend in the meantime, and look forward to seeing you all next week. Bye.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you very much. Take care, everybody. Look after yourself and be safe. Bye.
Bye.